Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from the East Coast, and good morning if you're on the West Coast. Tammy Maltby, I'm so happy you're on. I miss you, girlfriend. My friend Tammy from Colorado, and we are just so glad. I love seeing everybody hopping on. My sweet mom just joined. Well, it is a beautiful sunny day in North Carolina, and our hearts, of course, remain very fully in New York City. We are in touch virtually every hour with all of our people up in New York. In fact, Ron and I just recorded our Easter Sunday morning message. Ron did the message. It's a fabulous, powerful word. I think you guys are really going to be encouraged by it, all under the heading of "We Will Rise." And indeed we will, because of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So I hope you'll join us on Sunday. Every Nation New York City will be on Sunday morning, Sunday evening. But today is our day for one of my wonderful friends. I've been doing these Love Your Life dailies, if you've been joining me for the last 2 weeks, in an effort to just bring hope, bring encouragement, bring tools for you to really keep dreaming beyond what we're all going through right now. And I've been getting great feedback. I appreciate you guys joining in and coming, being a part of these. But today, my guest, my guest, Arlene Pelicans, who I'm going to invite on in just a minute, is actually scheduled to be with us live and in person in September in New York City. So we are very hopeful that all plans will go forward as planned in New York. But I invited Arlene to come on and just give you a foretaste of what's to come. But even more importantly, she is just a wealth of encouragement, knowledge, tools, all kinds of things. So with that in mind, I'm going to invite Arlene to join us. And you guys are going to really enjoy what she has to say. So, be coming on. Arlene.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I am doing well. And you are live from San Diego, right?
From San Diego, California. You betcha.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You heard me say we are still very hopeful that you're going to be with us live in New York
Yay,
in
Lord,
September.
please. Yes.
Please, please, please. Well, Arlene and I have a fun kind of introduction story. We met, I guess it's almost 3 years ago now, maybe 2 years ago. We were both speaking in New Jersey for a wonderful women's conference out there, and found that we had a lot in common, including, is it your husband that went to Oral Roberts University?
Yes, my husband, James. So we're like, oh, are you people?
We are that and more. And you are many, many things. I really have so enjoyed getting to know you, and I'm really, really thrilled that you can come on today and talk about some subjects that really are very, very relevant for so many of us, especially during this unplanned quarantine, this unplanned social distancing, so many challenges. I know one of the books that you've written is, I hope I get the title right, 30 Days to Being a Happy Mom. Is that right?
I give you one more, 31 days to becoming a happy mom. You're super close.
31 days.
You get 31 days.
I
give you one extra day.
Well, I figured out that we've been kind of on our quarantine, at least our family, for about 30 days now from when our spring break started. And that's how we ended up being here in North Carolina versus being in New York. And I couldn't believe the other day when I added it up, and I thought, wow, we've been out in New York for 4 weeks, but it feels just such a blur. And yet here we all are in a new phase of motherhood, a new phase of lifestyle challenges. So I would love for you to just dive in. Tell us, first of all, how has it been in California?
Yeah.
And what is your life looking like personally right now during this time?
Yeah, I was kind of doing the math as well. So I think it was March 20th when we got that initial email the kids aren't going back to school next week. And we're like, what? We were like so shocked, like what? And now it feels like, oh my goodness, we're pros at this. We've been home for so long. We are, my kids are older now. So I've got a 5th grader, an 8th grader, and a 10th grader. So in that sense, because they're older, they can do a lot of things independently. So I understand. And I remember when that would have been, something like 3, 5, 7, that would have been a different ball game at home. So since they're older, I can them go your math for an hour, and they'll go do math for an hour, or go watch Khan Academy and they watch Khan Academy, or we do books. So what we do in our house, and I suggest this for this coronavirus time, is we're trying to provide activities that aren't screen related. So what we'll do is we use money. so we do not have we have an allowance that they get, but instead they can read books that we choose for them. So they're books that they're books that kids don't just pick up and read, but they're spiritual books, or they're business books, or they're books about how to become an adult, things like that. So they can read these books and they can do book reports, and then they can sway. So like my oldest one just read Switch by Chip Heath and Dan Heath, and then he'll do a report about it. So things like that. So look at the age of your children. And if you're able to do that financially, even if it's, it could be $3, $5. I'm not talking about like a huge amount of money, but depending on the age, just get a bunch of books that you would like them to read. They could be like literature favorites of yours. It could be anything. Put them on a shelf, put little dollar signs on the spines, $5, $3, $2, $20, whatever it is, and let the money making begin. So that's just one idea, for instance. So we have moved into a rhythm. So we wake up at about 8. So we're not like the early riser. So about 8 o'clock. Now my son, my sophomore, he wakes up early and he starts doing his schoolwork because it's a nice quiet house and he loves that. So he does that. And then the girls and we start at about 8 and we'll have breakfast and devotions together. So see, being in this coronavirus time, all of a sudden it's slowed down. You can do these things. And it's maybe 8 minutes. It's not like a huge amount of time, but we are going systematically through a book. And then we will do exercise. Then we've been doing this YouTube exercise routine from like 9 to 9:30. So it gives like this nice way to start the day. Like it's a good way to start. And then you're kind of energized from doing the exercise and you feel like you've done something already. And then from that point, we go to usually 2 hours where the kids are just doing Khan Academy or reading or something like that. And I'm at my desk working, and then we regroup after lunch. And then it's kind of more of a free for all after lunch, that they're using the pool table. They're, they're drawing. My 10-year-olds are in calligraphy. So then it's kind of more a free for all for time. So why I'm sharing this is it's good to just put some rhythm. Sometimes you look at things and it's too intimidating. Like from 9:45 to 9:50, do this. Then from 11 to 11:30, do this. And you're like, oh my word, I'm already off the schedule. But for some people that could work really well. For me, it's just kind of the bookends of this is how we start the day. This is how we end our days. And it does have a certain rhythm to it. And then my husband, James, is just pulling out all the stops in terms of home improvement. He is like, I have 3 laborers that I don't normally have. So we have painted the fence. We have sealed the driveway. We're sanding, like we're doing all sorts of crazy things. So we're staying busy that way. So do try to think of ways. Don't feel sorry for your kids in the sense of like, oh, like give them chores is what I'm saying. Don't be afraid to give them chores, because it gives them then a team. It gives them something to do. It gets them usually outside many times. And it's something besides the screen time that they're getting. So I just read today on Covenant Eyes, they were saying that the average person is on the computer 5 hours and 19 minutes, and then they're on their mobile phone 1.5 hours, and then they watch TV for 2.5. So it's about 9 hours a day. And that's not even coronavirus. That's just like in normal life. So you can imagine while we're during this coronavirus time and people are watching they're streaming all sorts of movies, and their kids are just, whoa, they're watching so many movies. Yeah, I'm sure that number is probably much higher. So one thing I just want to help parents with is give yourself a little bit more grace, because this is an unusual period, but also realize we might be here for a while, and the habits that your child is forming, they are forming habits. So if they're getting used to, I get to watch whatever I want for 6 hours a day, when it comes time when it's like, oh, I'm sorry, dear, you can't do that. That's going to be a fight. So you just have to kind of think ahead of just this 1 week period, let's say, but just what are those habits that you want your kids to have? So you can loosen, but I wouldn't loosen up too much. And just a simple tip, when you're trying to evaluate that screen time with your kids, you can use the simple ABC method. And this is something that I talk about in my book with Gary Chapman, Growing Up Social. And the A is attitude. Like, what is my child's attitude like after watching this program, playing this game, hanging out with these certain friends on Google Hangouts, whatever. Like, what is the attitude of my child like? And is it lovely? And then the B is behavior. What kind of behavior does this show exalt? Like, how is the father figure? How is the mother figure? Is there a mother figure? Is there a father figure? What's the teacher like? Are they always disrespecting the teacher? Who's the hero in the story? So what behavior is this music, this video game, this show? What's it modeling and exalting to your kids? And then the C is character. What kind of character is being encouraged? So, you can things, but maybe the character is that, oh, they persevered through it, or, oh, they fought to do the right thing. So you're looking for what kind of character is being built in my child. So, a lot of times you can run through this. A, what's my child's attitude like? Oh, awful. Okay. That might be something we want to look at. B, behavior. C, character, and a few things you can do.
See, I love that. And would you even suggest that it'd be great to talk to your kids about that at the end of a program and even evaluate? Yes. Now, our girls have been begging and begging to watch Frozen 2, and I had read mixed reviews on it and wasn't quite sure. And so we finally, a lot of people that we trusted watched it. So we watched it over on this last Saturday night. But even so, Ron and I said before we even started, we said, now you understand that there are going to be some values in this that just are not our family values. Right. And bringing them into that discussion and giving them those measurements. I love that attitude, behavior, and character. So that they're not always going to be immune to it or buffered from it, but they can actually learn to evaluate the same way that we do as adults. I love that.
And it's good. And you can do that very young. Even if with a 5-year-old, what's your attitude like, buddy? I mean, you can do this, and I think it's really lovely because you're treating your child with that expectation, like, you can understand this. And of course you're couching it in a way that they can understand, but you're involving them. What you're really wanting is to raise a discerning child, a child who can discern for themselves, is this right or wrong? What's being emulated? Because in the end of the day, we can't filter out every single thing. Of course, we can to the best of our ability, but at the end of the day, it's the child's discerning heart that makes that choice. Now, having said that, as a parent, we do have that responsibility to say, okay, wait a minute, I don't want to put all that in your pocket. Let me go ahead and collect that. So I'm not trying to abdicate our responsibility, but at the end of the day, it is that child's discerning heart. So another way to look at it is digital vegetables or digital digital vegetables or digital candy. Because what they're watching sometimes, it's innocuous, but it's just candy. It's just silly. Right? There's nothing really meaty or wonderful or amazing. We think it's educational, but it's not. Like, all they did was count to 10 for a half an hour. It wasn't that big of a deal, So we just have to admit to ourselves, okay, that was digital candy. And then digital vegetables would be like, okay, if your kid's like doing math, that's pretty much vegetables. If your kid is maybe learning a different language, even Skyping grandma, Skyping someone that they love, that's good. That's healthy, good food. If they're learning, let's say they have an interest in photography, so they take a little photography course and learn how to take amazing pictures through this coronavirus, that's good. That's digital vegetables. So you can ask yourself, okay, what they're consuming, is it digital candy or digital vegetables? And of course, just like in real life, a little candy's just fine. Like, it's kind of fun to watch those YouTube videos where people keep falling down. Like, that has a place. But you can't eat candy all day long, or else you get sick.
That is so good. I love that analogy. Yeah. I think of that even for my own ability to consume things. I mean, even now, you turn your laptop on or your iPad on, and the news will be right there in front of you, and it pulls you in, and you begin to read stories and you read things. And I have felt really from the Lord in the last 6 months, even before this started, to be much more careful of and the way I describe it, what I'm bearing, because you cannot bear the pain of the entire world. You can't bear the pain of even everyone in your own life. And I, at the beginning of the year, made a list of the people, my priority people, my immediate family, my parents, my sister, the people that I am personally responsible for, because I needed to see in a prioritizing way whose world and whose news and whose information do I have the capacity to bear.
That's so
and what
good.
I mean that not just bear, but actually enter in and carry it with them and pray for them. And I want to be clear on that. My kids, I mean, I'm their mom. I want to be praying. Even my adult kids,
Yeah.
I'm one of their chief prayer warriors. If I'm praying for them, I may not have bandwidth to be bearing and carrying some random story I read on the internet that weighs me down, even for 15 to 20 minutes. Now I'm bearing it, I'm carrying it, I'm thinking back over it. We have to become a steward over what we're consuming. And I love that description of that vegetables and candy, because that is how so much of what we're being fed right now, it would fall into one or two categories.
And I want to piggyback on something you said, that you can do this even, you're giving me an idea of doing this with your kids. Like with your kids, who do you want to bear up during this coronavirus? Like which of your friends do you really want to reach out to? Which of your friends do you want to write letters to, be on the phone with, etc.? And what I want to contrast this with is maybe you're listening and you've got a fourth, fifth, sixth grader, and you're wondering like, oh, should this be the time I let them go on social media because all their friends are on social media and they're all alone at home. And I just want to tell you, don't do it, because what you open up now, that's going to be moving forward. Now you've got a girl on Instagram. Moving forward, now she's on Snapchat. Moving forward, it's really hard to put that back in the box. So instead of doing that, what I encourage and what we have done is you just look for those workarounds. So let's say you have your list. These are the 5 girls that your daughter wants to stay in touch with. These are 5 boys that your son wants to stay in touch with, whatever. And this is kind of more for girls, because girls like to sit and talk on the phone, where that's not so much where boys are. But let's say for your girls. So my girl, instead of having her own Facebook page, which she does not, they don't have social media, but they can jump on mine. They can Facebook Messenger a friend who's also using her mom's account, right? And then all of a sudden they can talk to each other. So look for those workarounds where it's not necessarily that you're saying, oh, okay, fine, I'll let you have all these social media type of, accounts, etc. But guess what? They can use your phone. They can use Zoom. They can do all sorts of things with Google Classroom and, all sorts of things of ways to see their friends. So let them nurture those relationships. But notice that's more on purpose versus let me scroll and look at like a gazillion people and just bear 100 burdens, like what you're saying. So how interesting to have your kids think of, who do I really want to stay in touch with? And then how can I really connect with them, which is beautiful. And again, use the tools you have. It's very much, it reminds me of the old phone of yesteryear where everyone had to share the home phone. You don't have to go get phones for all your kids now because you're in coronavirus. You guys can share. And I am experiencing that where they okay, you've got to call at 12. Okay, you use this device. Okay, you've got to call at 2. Okay, you use this device. And you're just working together as a team, and it can be done.
I love that. When I grew up, we only had one TV in the house. And I remember so many discussions of what we're going to watch tonight, because we only had one TV. And so we're all going to take turns. We're going to learn to appreciate what each other enjoys watching, and bringing each other into the mix versus always creating this distancing within our own home where someone's in this room, someone's in that room. How can we actually create more common spacing and togetherness? So this is just so helpful and so practical. I gotta
say something.
Yeah, please.
I was going to say, how interesting. So outside, we're social distancing, right? But inside, we're supposed to be more collective. And right now, the pattern in the American family is it's not collective. Mom scrolling, looking at or whatever recipes, dad's watching sports, sisters got her headphones on, and brothers playing video games. Like everyone's separated. So how interesting if we took it like, okay, we distance right now on the outside, but on the inside, we're taking away those things that distance us, and we're trying to come together. And there is a big difference of everyone watching something on their own and everyone coming together and saying, okay, we're going to watch this movie together. That's okay, because now all of a sudden you're laughing together, you have shared memories together. That's a good use of screen time. So we're all for just like I showed my kids Happy Days. It wasn't as funny as I remembered. This is like, I wanted to show, so, you take these opportunities to be like, oh, this is what mommy grew up watching. And we saw like the first 5 minutes of The Bionic Woman, and things like that. So it's kind of fun to use this time to use screens together, but try to minimize the times that you're apart, except for schoolwork when you're using the screens.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that too, because yesterday I had some friends of mine on that are husband and wife that are builders, and they work together in a business, and they were talking about creating boundaries even when you're in business together. When we come home, we have a boundary. We don't talk about business at our table. We don't talk about it in our home life or in the evenings because we have to draw that line.
Yeah.
And we started a policy recently where we just don't bring our phones to the table,
Yeah.
and we just have them way far away. And now the girls who are only 6 hold us accountable. Hey,
Yes.
no phones at the table, right? They don't,
exactly.
of course, they don't have phones, but we're
Right.
starting to set a precedent to say, we want to be intentional. We want to focus. We really want to make decisions. And I feel that as an adult, even constantly, screen time is a challenge. And right now, when we're depending on our screens to actually do our jobs, to stay connected, to go to church, to do virtually everything, then
Right.
how are we going to be intentional about what those decisions are, and maybe even cut back to in order to get outside or to do something different, or just to I've been noticing when I'm outside, not just being on my phone outside on a walk, but actually looking around and watching nature come to life, watching spring come to life. It sounds so sort of ethereal, but don't you see God when you
Yeah.
stop and look at something that's full of life versus just an electronic screen?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's a lot of beauty around us. Yes. It's like nature and the animals, they don't know that what's happening. That's what my mother-in-law had said. She tends to her garden, and that's what she is spending a lot of her time doing. And she's saying, like, look at the birds and all, they don't know that there's coronavirus. They're just going along their merry way. So I think those getting your kids out, take a hike in nature, and that's just a walk around your block. I know it's not that exciting, but there is beauty to be found in that. So do that with your kids.
Well, and even that need to, we as parents, we're always thinking by the end of the day, you want them to be worn out so they go to sleep at night. But isn't that true for all of us? I mean, the ability to exert ourselves physically, and it's such a decision. I mean, so often I've been a runner, avid runner for ever since I was 22. So what is that? Almost 40 years now. And I still, even though I love to run, I still notice that first half mile or so, I'm always thinking, what am I doing? Like my body, seriously, what am I doing?
Like,
why don't I stop and walk? Or why don't I go back home? It's too cold and I run outside all year long. It's too cold. It's too windy. It's just, and yet pushing past that zone and saying, no, this is what I do. I'm a runner. This is how I run. This is how I get my energy. And doing that even in the decisions you're talking about. Your kids are going to kick and scream when you put a new boundary up. When you say, no, we're not watching any more shows. Every time I say that, crying, whatever.
Right.
And so there's always going to be natural flesh resistance, but we plow through and we do it anyway.
And I'm so glad you said that, because you're not going to end this call and then go, okay, you guys, we're going to 2 hours now instead of 4. Your kids are going to be like, well, great, now I can color. They're not
exactly.
They're going to be like, what are we going to do? And they're going to ask you, 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 they're going to ask you.
True.
And you're just going to have to be like, you know what? You're talking to me, but my mind, I want to see if I can get this right. When my husband says my mind is like concrete, it is not able to be mixed up and permanently set, something like that. But basically, you cannot move me. You may not move me. And you just have to realize this is not going to be a popular decision to say, hey, we're going to do our screens differently than our neighbor. This is not going to be popular. Your kids aren't necessarily going to embrace it. But that in the long run, what you're looking for is, hey, you know what, during this coronavirus, let's be like closer to God. Let's show our kids trust in God. Let's read the Bible just a little tiny bit more. Let's write letters to grandma. Let's learn a skill. Like let's cook. Like let's learn how to cook. Let's learn how to take pictures. Let's learn how to sew. Let's learn, my son does 3D printing. So let's get really good at 3D printing. So give them skills out of this coronavirus being home, because, obviously anyone can sit down and watch a YouTube video. Anybody. It's a very, very low barrier of entry there. Anybody can start a social media thing. Anybody can do this. But have this time for skills, because all of a sudden you have this gift we do have this gift to be able to teach different things.
That is so rich, Arlene. I mean, even for ourselves, those of us who don't have kids, learn a new skill or watch, rather than just scrolling mindlessly, watch something that's actually educational. We did a last Friday, I had my kids, Kristen and Christian, on talking about travel. Well, no one's even traveling right now, but there will come a day when we are going to get back to traveling. And so why not be planning a family trip or a solo trip And just planning, I saw something the other day where someone I follow said, planning or dreaming is a form of planning. And right now, we need to be dreaming beyond what we're going through. We need to be thinking about professionally, what do I want to do next? Personally, in our families, in our travel. It's just so powerful. And bringing the kids into that and saying, hey, we're not going to be here all along forevermore. What do we want to do next? And how can we get ready for that?
I'll tell you one thing that I showed my girls recently was a TED Talk of you. It was your TED Talk, Lynette. And see, so that, and so if you're watching this and you've never seen this, you need to Google TEDx Lynette Lewis and you will get a huge dose of hope. And see, that's digital vegetables, this learning. It's like, you're growing and you're learning, you're watching good things. So Lynette's TED Talk in particular, and then TED Talks in general, so things like that, those are great ways to learn during this time.
Wow, I didn't even think of that, but even getting kids in front of TED Talks. I mean, TED Talks are one of my very favorite.
Like yours can be watched by a child, yours. And then if you, I don't have it automatically, but there's a wonderful one. If you do like TED Talk, lion, boy, I'm sure you'll get it. And it's about a boy and what he did with the lions in Africa to stop them from like ravaging their town. It's super interesting. And he's a teenager. So there are like ones that your kids can watch that would be interesting.
You've been such a great breath of fresh air today, because what you're doing is saying, isn't it sort of like when you realize you do need to eat more vegetables?
Yes.
And they aren't your first choice, right? My girls never say, can I have a piece of broccoli? They always say, can I have a cookie, or can I have a fig bar or something like that? Yeah. But to just really consume what we know our bodies need, and to consume what we know our spirits need, what we know our minds need. We know, we get a certain amount of sleep, not because we really want to go to sleep at night a lot of times, but because we know we need that sleep. And right now we have such interesting sets of needs, even amidst this quarantine. And what I hear you saying, Arlene, is we can be intentional and really be led by God at this time. I mean, God wants us to know what our kids need. Yeah. He wants us to be in tune with what we need. And if we're quiet enough to listen, he will show us exactly what to eat during this time.
Yes. Yeah, it's so true. And they say to help yourself physically, right, against the coronavirus, be healthier, like eat healthier. So that just is a physical thing you do. And the same thing is true getting out of the coronavirus in a spiritually good place, emotionally good places with your screen time. Also be healthy with what you're putting in. That's going to help. Again, the last thing I want to say is your kids are not going to do this on their own. They're not going to be like, oh, let me scoop up the digital vegetables. So that's why that's your job, to be like, okay, today we're going to watch this, and today we're going to watch this, and this is what you're able to watch during this time, etc. So it is kind of up to us to guide that process, because they're not going to do it themselves, whether they're 2 or they're 18. You've got to be part of that, serving that up.
Well, and even just the act of choices like that. I remember the one thing my mom would always never let me watch was soap operas. And they always came on in the afternoons right when we were coming home from school. And she was working during one season, and she would call home and she'd say, now you're not watching soap operas, are you? And I, at the time I thought, why is she being so adamant about this? But I'll tell you what, that training, and just even realizing that here my parents are making choices about what they consume because they have a reason and they want to protect their mind and protect their thought life. That practice, aside from the soap opera, is what taught me to be diligent as well. And now I'm doing the same thing with my kids, because it's in me to say, hey, I'm not just going to pick what I want. I'm going to actually pick what I need and what's important. And so being the parent in charge and being the one that says, no, we're going to do this my way because I'm in charge and I'm a steward over your life. It lasts a lifetime. It's amazing. Well, Arlene, one thing I'd love for you to share just before we close is, where can people find out more about your books, your resources? You have so many tools that would help so many of us. Where's the best place to go?
Yeah, so arlenepelicane.com, just my name, arlenepelicane.com. And during this month of April, because we are home with our kids, I am going through 31 Days to Becoming a Happy Mom every single day. We're following the thoughts in the book. So every day I'm giving a thought for the mom, stories and action step. It's really short. It's usually about 6 or 7 minutes. And I'm doing that on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, my website. So there's lots of ways for you to access that daily teaching. And then if you feel like I really need help with screens, then Growing Up Social is the book that you want to look at. And we're actually revising this book with new stats, because this book has been a few years since it came out. And so it's going to be re-released, hopefully in October, called Screen Kids. So that's coming up for those of you who just need more help with screens. And we're also releasing a grandparents edition, Grandparenting Screen Kids, because there's a lot of grandparents out there who are, all of a sudden the kid comes with an iPad and you don't know what to do. So that's coming up in the fall. But on my website, arlenepelicane.com, there's also quizzes. You could click on quizzes, and there's a quiz, is my child getting too much screen time? And that's something that you could check out for yourself.
Wow. Well, you are just a gift to the world. You really are. And you are a gift to us today. And for those of you that are watching from New York City, get ready for September when Arlene's going to be with us live and in person. We're going to do a Love Your Life event, but we're also going to do a Saturday morning workshop that would be great for friends and coworkers and all those people we're going to reconnect with by then. And so Arlene, thank you so much, my friend. We will be putting this video up on my story. It'll be up for 24 hours, and then we take a copy and put it on YouTube. So you can join us there and send it and share it with anybody else you like. So everyone have a great day. Bye, Arlene.
Bye, Lynette. So great to see you. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you.
It was wonderful. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.